It's the 21st day of July. Hello again, everybody. It's the Randy Hales Show, and I am the founder, the owner, the president of Power Pro Wrestling. It's Randy Hales for the Randy Hales Show, and we're ready to go in late July, man. Hot, 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 hot. August should be in the state of Arkansas. So I hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody is cooling off. Hope everybody is being prepared for the hot, brutal month of August. Hope everybody's doing good. I'm Randy Hales again. And if you miss Talking Memphis Wrestling on Tuesday, you missed the show and tell. You missed a present that I got or something that was so exciting and a blessing to me, something that puts chills down my spine all over the place. And for those of you that have not seen this gift, have not seen what I'm holding in my hand, I will explain it to you right now. I want to say hello to David Linville. David's in Maysville, Kentucky. Lucien is a Kentucky fan from Lexington, Kentucky, and the Wildcats. Stephen Gold is from right here in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And Lucien says, so sad to lose great music legend Tony Bennett. He had, Tony Bennett was very good. Tony Bennett, very. Hey, is somebody new in the house? Hey, what is going on with you? We're doing good here. And we have a surprise that Randy West sent me. Folks, I'm holding in my hand a piece of history. Michelle Smith, I am holding in my hand a piece of history. This is the microphone. This is the official microphone for the Mid South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, the match that Lance Russell called the Loser Leave Town match. The Loser Leave Town match, Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee in 1983. It was the same microphone that he used in 1972, the first sellout at the Mid South Coliseum, Al Green, Jackie Fargo. It was the match, the microphone that I used in 1984 when I did the play-by-play at the Mid South Coliseum with the Rock and Roll Express against Randy Macho Man Savage and Lanny Poffo. This is the microphone that Jerry Lawler did local interviews on, that Hulk Hogan, the Terry Funk, any star that ever did an interview that came into the Memphis territory, this is the mic. Now, I can tell you, how does it sound? I'm doing a little touching on the mic just to see if you can see the volume of it. I hope it is good. I am so fired up, so excited to have this microphone with me. Thanks to my good buddy, my best friend, Randy West, the best television producer that I'd ever seen. Oh, Randy Dandy in the house and sent this to me from his house, and I'm excited about it for sure. Al Tuttle is in the house. We have pretty good number of people coming up right now, and appreciate it very much, folks. A little tease for later. A little tease for later. I may have a rant. I may do another rant. You never know who I'm hot about. Is it West Bolt, who knocks the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame? Is it callers in the front row with Bud Rowe? On the front row with Bud Rowe and Randy Myers? Could it be that rant? Or was it the match that I saw Wednesday night with nails and thumbtacks and glass and all kinds of blood and all kinds of danger, could I do the rant on that? Now, Shane Russell has been invited to be the guest today because I wanted to show him this microphone. I already texted him about it and told him about it and sent him pictures of it, and he's so excited about it. Man, I need a handyman, Rod Robinson. Rod Robinson is waiting. He might be asleep over there. No, he's not asleep over there. Rod, I need a handyman. Man, where is Randy West where I need him? Maybe Al Tuttle's a handyman. Man, I just walked in to grab something out of my closet that I use as a room that I keep stuff for this production, a lot of the gimmicks and kind of stuff. And the chef, and I am horrible about this sort of thing. The chef in my closet, the big walk-in closet, fell all the way down to the ground, and every bit of my clothes are, and plus the stuff on the top shelf. I got a disaster going on. We're going right now, waiting for Shane, and hopefully we'll have Shane Russell coming into the house a little bit. Want to check in with Rod Robinson to see what he's doing. We missed Rod last week on the show, and here he is from the Chicago, Illinois area. You're not fancy, you kind of are. You have the Jerry Lawler shirt on, but I have the microphone, the original microphone from the 70s that Lance Russell, Jerry Lawler, and everybody else talked on, as Al Tuttle is saying hey to Rod. And
Oh, guys. Randy, you were talking about that microphone because you know what I always liked about it is when Lance held it in his hand, like announcing in the Mid-South Coliseum ring. He always um cupped the top part over with his hand so you couldn't see the top part of the mic. I always thought that was a cool move.
yeah, he would do it like that. He thought it sounded better that way.
Right,
That
yeah,
that's how he would do it right there.
yeah,
I never did it. I always did it that. I like to play with it and
right.
change hands and mess around with it. Great microphone. This is a part of history. Lucian talking about anything but freaking wrestling. About the Cubbies, they defeated the St. Louis Cardinals today, 4-3 in Wrigley Field. I saw that. Hello, Tanner. What's going on with you? Haven't heard from you in a while. So, Rod, what's going on with you, my man?
Not a whole heck of a lot. Last last weekend was the roughest weekend of my life, but we got through it, so we're all good. She's moving forward on with life now, brother.
All right, wrestling wise, what's the latest wrestling you watched on the old boob tube on the television?
I watched via DVR. I watched the last thing I saw was AEW this past Wednesday night. That's the last thing. I'm all caught up on my DVR stuff.
So, real quick, what did you think of Dynamite?
Dynamite was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. You know, people say that Dynamite, when they originally came out, was trying to be WCW. You know, back when it was on TBS and Turner. But I ain't never seen it that way. Because
No,
I've
me
heard
neither. It's just people complaining for the sake of complaining, and there's a lot of
exactly.
people do that all around. People complaining just think they're freaking expert. But remember the poem that I read the week ago, and I'll read it again in a minute if I can find the dang thing. Man in the arena. The man in the arena, they ain't been in the arena. So, anyway, I'm glad you liked it. I really thought that Jack Perry did a great job with Hook
Yes.
as a heel. I thought he just has the personality that you can hate. Now, there's nothing cool now. He was smart. He changed his music, different music, no graphics, just everything about it changed because he's wanting to get heat. He's wanting the people not to like him. Now, MJF can get heat, but he can also make people laugh. And a lot of people disagree with this, but a lot of times in wrestling, funny means no money. Wrestling done best is when you can suspend disbelief. So I like my favorite match of the night was Jack Perry and Hook. Thought it was just great. Had a defined baby face, a defined heel. It was real good. And then I like MJF and Adam Cole together as a tag team. Then I thought the honestly, I thought the blood and gut match, I thought it was just crazy some of the stuff, but the glass and the tax and all the things they did, I thought it was a little bit too much for
Right.
me. It's not the type of wrestling I liked. It was blood for the sake of blood. It was bumps for the sake of bumps. It was one shot moment after one shot moment, and it was lucky that somebody didn't get killed
Right.
in that thing. But overall, I think they had the match last year and several people got hurt, and I don't think there was any major injuries coming out of that one.
Randy, can I express one opinion about something?
You always do. Go ahead.
Because I heard you say Adam Cole and MJF, but I personally think that MJF should stay a heel because I think he's much better and much more talented. Calling people pricks and all this and that. I think he's better staying a heel, but that's just my personal opinion.
I have mixed feelings about that, Rod. First of all, he does do a great job, just a super job, and he's great talker, but he's more like the cool heel, the hated heel that people want to risk their getting beat up or going to jail or that sort of thing. He doesn't have killing money drawing heat and never has. I don't
Oh,
think.
really?
No, I don't think he has money drawing heat at
Oh,
all. I think he is a great talent. I think he has done heel interviews, and then maybe 3 weeks in a row, then that fourth week he's doing a dance routine or
right.
something, and I think that hurts him. I think he is a credible world champion, and I think he should be the world champion for sure. No doubt about it. And I think lately, because they've hired new people in production, and you can see in AEW more sports entertainment because I think they're probably realizing just the blood and guts type of wrestling, which is what I like. But you're booking a television show for the masses, and maybe they want to combine it with the great matches. The other match, I don't know if you saw it. You got to start recording it if you don't. They had two very good matches on Collision this past Saturday. One of them was CM Punk and Ricky Starks, just very good, the old style type. And I think the wrestling on the Saturday show is more the traditional thing than old school fans will like. I really do. And FTR against Jay White and Juice Robinson. Did you see that 2 out of 3 fall match? Man, it was tremendous.
Yes, it was. But you know, that's like the old school wrestling. You need, but I would personally like to see more 2 out of 3 falls than what you do in today's wrestling. I understand, that you have to have basically on television like 5 to 6 minute matches and then you gotta get out. I understand that. But I think it would be great if you had more 2 out of 3 falls.
I thought that 2 out of 3 fall match was just very, very, very good. It was excellent. You know, if you had a lot of 2 out of 3 fall matches, that will cut down on the number of people on the card, number of the boys with payoffs, and number of
Right.
new people you're seeing. So it's not realistic. Another heel, and I agree with Al, for for sure, Al. When you say Dominic is the biggest heel right now, I think he definitely is in the WWE. This whole bloodline stuff that's going on is just tremendous. A lot's going on in current wrestling. I know a lot of old school don't like the style and don't like a lot, and I don't like a lot. But honestly, back in the good old days, this stuff I booked, I didn't like everything. I didn't think everything worked out. That
Right.
happens. That happens for sure. That you're not going to like everything that you see. However, I do think that these days you can't argue with the success with the money and the fact the unbelievable money the WWE is drawing right now and AEW in London in August. It's going tremendous. It's absolutely going to be tremendous. Close to 80,000 people. Can't wait till they make the announcement how we can see that. Now, I want to say hello to Scott Middleton, Scott's Art. Say hello to him. And Shane Oldham is in the house. Who do you think was the greatest heel in Memphis wrestling? I say Jerry Lawler.
But I couldn't agree more.
I would say Jerry Lawler is the uh, greatest heel. In my era, um, Big Al Green. I never saw Jackie Fargo as a heel either. Tojo Yamamoto was a great heel. There's just so many down the years. Eddie Gilbert and Lawler drew money. Absolutely. That was in later years beyond the peak years of the territory system. Al, do you want to be backstage? Because I want to bring my guest on. Do you want to stay in back page? And if you have a question for Shane, I'll bring you back on for that question. So get a question in your head, okay? Okay? Hello?
Are you talking to me or Al?
I'm talking to you.
What you said, Al.
Goodbye. If you want to come back on, just let me know. And I want you to be able to ask a question to Shane Russell, and Shane's in the house because I've invited Shane in because, whoa, man, this is the toughest deadgum mic that you've ever seen. Watch this, people. Watch this. Banging that sucker as hard as I can bang it, man. This thing is durable. This thing is tough. This is the original I got in the mail from Randy West last Saturday, along with a lot of cool stuff. This is the very microphone that Lance Russell did commentary in at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis. And for our local promos for the other markets, this is the microphone he held and interviewed Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart and Jerry Lawler and Jack Briscoe and Harley Race and Andy Kaufman and so many, many others. And I wanted Shane to be here as I debuted this microphone, and I wanted to see this. I also, before I bring Shane Russell in, and he's in the backstage area, and he's fired up, and he's ready to go, but I'm going to make him wait 3 minutes. High Spots put together a great Lance Russell tribute. And before we get Shane in here, except I've lost that, and before we get Shane in there, we're going to watch it.
You're making big talk here about saying going in there. Are you talking about putting the belt up right now?
Lance was one of a kind.
Lance was more laid back, and he would lay back and joke and a little bit and maybe laugh a little bit.
Lance Russell, I think he got the name Banana Nose. And Lance Russell, to me, is one of the greatest announcers of all time. They didn't take nothing away from Dave Brown, because Dave Brown, you're right there with him.
Lance and Dave together, especially Lance and that leading it, It was magic here. I've seen all the other areas. I've seen tons of promotions and their guys, and they were all good. But to me, Lance and Dave were just the best.
But it was Lance and Dave Brown, and together they were a great combination.
Best announcer ever. And you have a lot of announcers in this day and age that don't know a hammerlock from a headlock.
We didn't realize how great we had it, that we had this live show. When something happened on that show, whether somebody slipped up and said a bad word or whatever happened, it was there. It was live and it was happening.
Live TV, 52 weeks a year, 90 minutes, and only one or two little screw-ups ever. And that's, you think about that.
It was a little bitty studio. They had two sides of seats for the people, and the rest was for the wrestlers and the cameras. And that studio would be packed every morning. People would be lined up down the street just to get in.
Lance had been the program director for Channel 13, and that was his real job, and wrestling was a side job.
Lance was the perfect man for that job.
Lance had a good voice. He knew the product. He studied the product.
When you talk to Lance off camera, it's the same person that's on camera. His little sayings are ones he uses every day in his life, and it's the same person. There is no difference. And that got over with the fans.
You take Lance Russell out of that, and a lot of that magic's gone. That's how important Lance Russell was to it.
Courtesy of High Spots. Very great tribute. Now I want to know why in the world Mark James was on there, David Milliken was on it, all those people, and one of the mainstays, including me, was not on there. Jerry Lawler wasn't on there. Bill Dundee wasn't on there. Shane Russell wasn't on there. Dave Brown wasn't on there. But it was very well done. Coming in all the way down in the Pensacola, Florida area. Jealous, has chills, his hair standing up on his arms, seeing me with this microphone in my hand, bringing back memories. Hey, Shane Russell.
Hello again, everybody. Shane Russell and Randy Hales right along for another Friday night of good wrestling talk. Randy, I am jealous. I can't believe that you have the mic that my dad used for all those years to talk to the legends of wrestling. That's just crazy.
Now, obviously, this wasn't the microphone at TV5. This is
right.
the microphone that Randy West would bring with him. And
exactly.
He's making some changes at his house and didn't know he had any wrestling stuff left. And he found several things and sent me a goodie package. I couldn't be more thrilled to death.
Wow. So this was the mic that was used on all the spot shows for Evansville and Louisville and all those shows.
No, because we would very, very rarely take the cameras to the spot shows in those towns. Very rarely.
Oh.
Very rarely. This was used any production work at Randy's studio. This was every Monday night for the local promos that was done for Louisville, Evansville, Nashville. It was used for the wrestlers' interviews for that, but very rarely that now I'm not saying they never went to Evansville or never went to Louisville. They did, but for the most part, where it went every week was Monday nights at the Mid-South Coliseum.
Wow. Wow, that's just amazing. I love the history of it. I got to say hello to a few people that are saying hello to me, Tanner and Lucian and Scott and Al. And sorry I missed Rod. I know he was on earlier. I'm sorry I'm a little late, Randy. I actually I had my grandkids today. We went out and did some fun things with them, and so we just got back and just can't wait to talk a little wrestling with you guys and talk about the mic and everything else going on in the business.
How's going on? Everything in your life? As Shane Odom has something to say. He said, I want to say thank you to your family for sharing a treasure of your dad. He made my Saturday mornings and he is truly missed. That's Shane Odom.
Right.
Shane.
Yeah. Thank you, Shane. I appreciate that. Truly miss. I miss him every day. I'm lucky enough to I actually see him every day. It's amazing the feeling that I get, because when I go on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, I mean, I see my dad every day. So it's almost like he's still with us, and so it's just a great feeling. But I appreciate you thinking of him and in such great high regards as that. But Randy, how you been, man? I hadn't had a chance to talk to you in a while.
I have been very busy lately. Very, very busy. I think you saw on a post that I did. I no longer do the front row with Bud Row. This was my first week without doing that. You know, it just was after 156 weeks of doing it, and I enjoyed it because it was the legacy station, the very first one I ever listened to in my life. But I'll be honest, Shane, the main reason that I decided not to do it, the very top reason, was I look back, and I've always been a numbers guy. I compare my Uber sales on that day to any other day, and I usually took off about 8 o'clock so I wouldn't get trapped on a ride, and usually get out of the radio station about 10:30. And I look back over the last few years, Wednesdays between that time period was far the slowest time that I had. Absolutely. Another thing that I think is that I would rather be a guy in control of the creative on that sort of level. I'm not a very good as far as doing a program of second fiddle or a three or a third fiddle. And, you know, Bud was pretty good at letting me dictate whatever I wanted to do on the show. I'm not saying that. It wasn't my show. It was their show. And I'm thinking, why not concentrate on the 3 shows that I do and not have to deal with idiots that call into that radio station that pisses me off and gives me headaches. My hair's turned gray. And I know some of them watch this show. Oh, Jeff. So here's the little message to your brother that one of the reasons I'm not doing that show is there's no use. Hey, Shane, I don't know if I told you, after about 7 years of blood pressure issues, finally been over the last year or so, got the medicines right, and my blood pressure is great, just fantastic. I'm just thinking I don't need things to get me fired up and get me mad and argue about some bullshit and that sort of thing. So there's the main reason for me not to do it is money, but the other is aggravation, and the other is I want to concentrate on these shows because I think this is a unique type of show, and I think it's a fun show, and I think we've developed what I call Team Hales, a great group of people, and I like doing that. So everything's all good in the world except I had a disaster earlier. Before, did you hear my disaster? Did you hear me explain my disaster?
I did not. I just got here, so I did not.
I am the worst handyman in the history of the world, so I got to call somebody to do it. So I heard a noise, a loud noise. Hey, Mark from Kentucky, after Shane Russell, my great friend, after we finish our interview later on, would love to hear about your vacation last week. Anyway, Shane, so here's the deal. I hear a big, loud noise. I got a big walk-in closet, so I'll walk in there. And so I got a shelf with boxes and all kinds of stuff on it, and then I have my clothes hung on underneath it, and I probably have 100 things of clothes. I guess the weight had finally got to it, Shane, and it has collapsed, and every bit of my stuff is on the floor. What the hell, man? And I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I don't know. I have any idea how to fix that.
Is that those wire shelves?
Yes.
Was it a wire shelf?
Yes. and then I would hang the stuff underneath the wire. The
Right.
wires.
I used to have those, and that happened to me a couple of times, and I hated it. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So
Do you think if I call here at the apartments, if I call my landlord, do you think they would fix it or not?
no, I can't imagine them fixing that for you.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Well, shoot.
Was it in there when you moved in?
Yeah.
Well, they may. If that's what they put in all the apartments, they may.
And I've been here since September.
Yeah, they may. But I know I used that early on in my house, and I that kept happening, so I took it out. So I can't stand it. So, but hey, I wanted to say something about. I don't know Lucian Maurice Nichols. Is he a regular listener? He said some
off
great
and
things
on.
about
He's in
Dad.
Lexington. He's in Wildcat Country, Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, well, Lucian, thank you so much for saying some great things about Dad. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks for listening to. But hey, that High Point video that you put up, I tell you what, when Terry Funk says that Lance Russell was probably the best announcer, that's got a lot going for it.
I think almost anybody that you can get in the wrestling business, especially from that era, would think that. I want to reach out and say hello to Angela. Angela, I hadn't heard from you in a while, and I'm thrilled to death that you're watching the Randy Hales show. As I'm Randy Hales, and he's Shane Russell, and we're talking Memphis wrestling, talking life. And I have a question of the day that we do every week on the Randy Hales show. Shane Russell, my question is, based on a article that was in the news here in Jonesboro just a few days ago, a $2 million lottery ticket was sold in Bono, Arkansas, which is like 3 miles from Jonesboro. It's part of the Jonesboro community. So my question to everybody is, and I have my answer, but Shane, if you won $2 million, what would you do?
Well, the first thing I would do is pay off all my debts. So I got that and clear all that out. Then I'd take a nice trip. So and then after the trip, then I would probably donate some money to some needy organizations or people.
Now, would you not still work?
No, I would not work. I'm actually at the end of my career, so I'm probably going to be retiring next year. So yeah, I definitely would not work. But that's kind of in the position I'm in right now.
Yeah, I'm not too much younger than you, am I?
No, I think you're probably a couple of years younger. You're like 61, I would think, right?
Be 62 in December.
There you go. Yeah, you're about 2 years younger than me. So I'll be 64 in October.
I was going to go back to see if Rod had a question for you, but he is not in the backstage area, so hopefully he'll come back on.
Yeah. Tanner says he'd pay his debts and purchase land and real estate. He's a wise man.
Well, would you imagine that? I think it would take more than $2 million to do this, but I got my plan, and I want to encourage everybody. First of all, let me take care of some business here, folks. I've just put in comments on Facebook. I put on comments in Facebook, and all you have to do is click on that link, and we want to show Shane Russell that you're interested every time he comes in. So if you have questions about Lance, about Shane, about anything, click on that. Click on that link in the comment section, or you see right there up on the screen or right there. If you can't click on the link I posted on the comment section, take a picture of the deal on the screen right under me and Shane, and you can write it down and plug it into your browser and your URL, and then you can come on, because we would love to have people get involved in this conversation with our man Shane Russell. Does that sound
Okay.
good to you?
I got a question. I got a personal question that I've never been able to get an answer for.
Okay.
How can you have a wrestling Hall of Fame without the likes of Lance Russell?
Well, certainly the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, Lance was in the first class.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, of course, take it or leave it, the WWE. I mean, that's kind of a hit or miss whether it's a true wrestling Hall of Fame. But the one that's out in, I believe it's Iowa, if I'm not mistaken, the Luthez.
Hold the phone. I'm going to look for something. I'm going to put you center. I'm going to have to switch and to find something else. And you're talking about the Luthez, George Dragus one.
Correct.
Just gripe about it a little bit, and let me see if I can find something to put on the screen, okay?
Yeah,
because I think I have something.
This is personal to me. I've always, I think Dad was, probably the best one, if not the best, at least in the top 3 wrestling announcers of all time. So I just don't know how you can do a true wrestling Hall of Fame without having him in the announcer side of it, along with Gordon Soley, Jim Ross, Lance Russell. I mean, those are my top 3. And I just don't understand. I think a lot of it's political, especially WWE. It's political. But the other one, I don't understand that one. So, and maybe I'm just being, maybe I'm just being too personal about it, but I just think it's just something that needs to happen. Tanner, you're exactly right. Bob Caudle was very good. Dad and Bob were very good friends, and they used to kid each other about being who's the top wrestling announcer. But Bob is a super guy. I don't think he's passed, but he is a super guy. And you're right, Tanner. He is very good at what he did.
This
oh my
Hall
God!
Of Fame.
I think my daughter has just made a comment. There you go. Randy, Sarah, that's her married name now.
Hey, Sarah, what's going on, girl? I love Sarah.
I'm actually over at her house, and her daughter, who is just a couple of months old, my granddaughter, we're over here with her.
So here is the Hall of Fame that's going on this week. And can you read those names from the top to the bottom?
Not without blowing it up, I can't. You remember, I'm almost 64.
So, okay. J.J. Dillon, Jerry Briscoe, Joe Malenko, Wes Briscoe, Colt Cabana, and Marty Jannetty. That's the first row. So your comments about those?
Well, if I'm comparing them to Lance Russell, something's wrong. If you don't have Lance Russell in there before those guys, nothing against them. They all were great with what they did, but I just think Lance Russell needs to be in there before them.
So the next row is John Nord, Jim Miller, I think is a ring announcer, Dan Gable, which is like amateur wrestling, Tom Burke, who is a wrestling photographer and writer, Rock Riddle, which has been around for years and years and years, Rick McCord, who was nice guy, enhancement wrestler, Bob Roop is in theirs, Sin Bodie, Demolition Demolition was on here, referee James Beard, Haku,
Right.
JBL, Tommy Rich, Baron Von Raschke, Ross Hart, Les Thatcher, Bill DeMont, Thunderbolt Patterson, and Ken Patera. And it's all about money in this particular thing of people that they can put in that they can make the most money on or will spend the most money. Here's the last one. Absolutely. Lance freaking Russell is not in this thing, but Conrad Thompson is.
Right. You know, Randy, there's a lot of articles out there about top 10 wrestling announcers of all time. And I mean, there's a lot of articles, and I agree with a lot of them. I mean, Dad definitely should be in the top 5. Hey, look here. Brooks is listening from Pensacola, Florida. That's exactly where I am. But Howard, I think it was, I can't remember the guy's name, not Howard Baum. There was another guy who did what he thought was the greatest wrestling announcers, and he did it in a little different perspective, which I thought was genius. He had Dad as the number one, and his reasoning for that was that Lance Russell was more important to Memphis wrestling than, say, Gordon Soley was to Florida or Georgia, or Harry Thornton was to Nashville or whatever. But you take Lance Russell out of Memphis wrestling, and I don't think you have quite the same impact as you have.
And that was Howard that did that?
Well, it was either Howard Baum or I don't think it was Howard. It was
Barry
another.
Rose?
Who?
Barry Rose?
No, it wasn't Barry. It'll hit me later. But I thought that was really interesting. The way he put that was that you take Lance Russell out of Memphis wrestling, and it's just not the same. He was more important to this territory and to make it run than you'll ever know. And I think that's why he felt he should have been number one, because of that reason.
Yeah, and of course I have a bias, just like you do, and just like everybody, the friends of Hales in this room right now. Every one of us, to a person, I would think, would say Lance Russell. I mean, I think that's the case. Now, why is he not in the WWE? One that, I don't know. I am surprised that, Waller's had a lot of influence from all over the years, and I can guarantee you he's pitched it. I will bet you my life that Jerry Lawler has pitched Lance Russell as part of the Hall of Fame. He pitched Lance as the person to induct him in the Hall of Fame, and they didn't go with that idea.
Yeah. Mark Graham just made a comment. Lance was down on the fans level, and that is why he was the best. I tell the story, Mark, all the time. Dad, when we got back into it, when I got him back into it, he was so thrilled to be back. Number one, he never thought people would remember him. He just didn't understand. But when I tell the story, and it still tears me up to this day, we went to a show down in Minglewood Hall. Dad was in his late 80s, pushing 90, and it was over with, and his back was killing him. His legs were hurting. But he said, "Hey, come on. Let's go out to the front. I want to shake everybody's hand and thank them for coming." And we did that. And that right there tells you a lot about the man and how we felt about the fans of wrestling.
One of the things that really gets on my nerves, and you would have never heard Lance Russell say this, and a lot of you hear a lot of people on us, oh, that's got just a mark. That's not a mark. Lance Russell and so many people that made a living out of this business understood it, that without the fans, we didn't have a job. Without the fans, we weren't nothing. And Lance Russell, certainly, as much as anybody, that's a great story you told. He was tired and he was hurting, but he wanted to say thank you. And Al Tuttle's Mount Rushmore of announcers are Lance, Bob, Bob Cottle, Gorilla Monsoon, and Gordon Soley.
Yeah. You know
It's
what?
all relative. I would put Lance Russell, Dave Brown, and I don't know. Jim Ross, probably Jim Ross. I was never a big, huge fan of Gordon Soley. Were you?
I thought Gordon was good. I didn't think he had the voice for it. I just, right or wrong, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I just didn't think he had that just pure announcer voice. He certainly knew, his trade and the product. So I can't fault him for that. So, but I thought Gordon was good. Um, I think JR needs to be in there just because I just think he did a lot for the business. He came up with a lot. He did a lot for the different areas, and I think it's hard to keep JR off of it.
Want to remind anybody, if you want to come say hello to Shane, if you want to have a question or a comment, tell him your
What's
thoughts
funny?
on his dad, click the link in the announcement side, or take a picture of that and write it in your URL. Sorry, Shane, I'm trying to drum us up some interest here.
That's fine. What's funny? Somebody said something earlier in the comments. I can't remember who said it, but they were talking about Dad. How, it was Mark James in that High Point video. He said Lance Russell on camera was the same as he was in person. And that's exactly right, because I can't tell you how many times as a kid growing up with the dad of Lance Russell, him saying to me, "Hey, what in the Sam Hill are you doing, Shane?" He'd say, "Hey, quit with the smart stuff." Just things like that. He would say that to me all the time. And he said it on camera as well.
He said, "What in this Sam Hill?" And I did have and I'll look for it. I'll set you up with the question, and then I'll see if I can find that thing, because at the memorial service in Memphis, you had a thing set up, and that was a tremendous thing. It was unfortunate. That was a bad weekend for you when Lance passed away, and it was the weekend and the morning that your sister had passed away, and that's why you were in town. And that's just a terrible situation. But Lance up in his 90s and that sort of thing, it was meant to be. I think it was totally meant to be, Shane, that he passed away in Memphis, Tennessee. If not, that memorial service would have been in Pensacola, not Memphis, Tennessee.
Exactly right. And it was a very tragic week for the Russell family as to all what happened. But when he passed away, and I was trying to figure out everything about what to do about his funeral, and I told everybody in the family, I said, "Look, it's got to be Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, no doubt about it." And thank you to Jerry Lawler and Dave Brown for taking the time out. Jerry really sacrificed, going to a huge New York Comic Con that he had already set up. But he said, "Shane, I'll be there. Don't worry about it." So very, very nice of him to do that.
No doubt about it for sure. And I want you to go, your microphone will be hot, and I want you to go over this that was on display at the funeral. Go ahead, Shane.
You know, these are some sayings that we put together with people. We thought people would get a really kick out of seeing. You can read some of them. You know, get those guys out of here. What in the Sam Hill? Can we get some help out here? I mean, it's just all the son of a gun. It's just all the things Dad would say through the years on the show.
Eddie Marlin, can we get some help out
Yeah.
here? You wait a minute. I'm getting sick and tired of you coming out here every week. Just all these. All right, don't get into that stuff. You got something to say to me, you better say it to him. Just classic Lance Russell, classic stuff, Shane.
Yeah. And of course it in bold print there, yellow again, everybody. I mean, who grew up in Memphis or watched Memphis wrestling and didn't know the famous trademark of Lance Russell every Saturday morning? Yellow again, everybody. Great stuff.
Want to say hello to Michael Butler in Humboldt, Tennessee. So Humboldt, Tennessee's an area I'm sure your dad's been to many times because he lived in Jackson.
Dad and my mom and my brother and sister grew up in Jackson, Tennessee. We actually have some relatives, Michael, that lived in Humboldt, Tennessee. So I think I still have some cousins that live up there. So I've been to Humboldt many times. So know it well.
Lance Russell, the voice of Memphis wrestling, we all knew, and I thought that it would just be so interesting, Shane, that I would have you on here. We debuted this microphone on Tuesday, but certainly I thought it would be so interesting if you would be on here with me and you could see this microphone. If we're ever at the same place at the same time, I will bring the microphone and a cable, and we will set it up in the PA system, and I'll tell the promoters, say, hey, let Shane use this microphone and let Shane ring announce this match.
How I would envy doing that. That would just be great. You know, Al Tuttle brings up a great point about Dad and Bob Caudle calling matches. You know, it's like listening to two old friends just talking. And, you know, that's kind of Dad. That's kind of what he wanted it to be. I can't tell you how many times I've heard when Dad and I were going to the Comic Cons and different wrestling shows that people would come up and say, hey, it was just like listening to my dad or my granddad talking about the wrestling. Whatever you said goes. I mean, it was gospel. If you said this and that, we believed it. And I think Al hit the nail on the head. You know, that was exactly right. That's the way his style was.
You know, it's interesting. You brought up, been talking about Bob. I remember when Jim Cornette, and this was in the early 90s, and Jim Cornette had opened up Smoky Mountain Wrestling in Knoxville, and they ran a big show in Knoxville. It was a legend show that Cornette based that off of Monday Night Memories, but he brought your dad up there and they did a video, and I believe that's on YouTube, that entire show with Bob, and Les Thatcher was on there and Lance was on there. I would imagine in that era, you were no longer living in Memphis. You were probably already in Pensacola, correct?
Yeah, exactly. You know, actually, I have never seen that. So I'm going to have to look that up if you think that's on YouTube. I'd love to see it.
I know it's on YouTube. I just don't know the name of the the name of the deal, the show. Al, you can probably figure that out. You're my researcher, so figure out the show from Knoxville with Bob Cottle and everybody else. PJ from over the pond. PJ from where is he? Thailand is in the house saying hello to Shane.
PJ, how you doing? Good to see you're on. Shane Odom actually asked a great question. One of the most classic moments of Lance Russell when he pulled out a hammer, and it was against Tojo Yamamoto. I still watch that at least once a month. I can't believe Dad did it. But I believe his comment was something in the nature of, "Hey, I may only get one lick in, but it's going to be a good one."
Shane Russell is my guest. I'm Randy Hales. This is the Randy Hales Show. David Smith, David, would love for you to join in a little later on in the program if you have time. I want to talk to some current wrestling. We missed you last week. Just joining in. Apologize. Shane, did your dad watch any other wrestling territories or have any other regional announcers he really liked?
He didn't really watch many other wrestling territories. He was so entrenched in the Memphis is that that's kind of what he's wanted to stay in. He did watch a little bit of Georgia, of course, because it was on everywhere just about. He was actually, I think we talked about earlier, he was actually really good friends with Bob Caudle. Respected Bob tremendously. He knew Gordon, had spent some time with Gordon, but he really enjoyed Bob Caudle and just thought Bob was just really good. So that's kind of the only other people that he paid attention to.
I want to say hello to my friend Crazy Gail Brooks. Gail has had a rough year, the loss of her daughter, and our prayers for Gail as she has those grandbabies now. Gail, we're praying for you. And if you ever need anything, just let us know, and you know my number. I want to tell you a funny story because in 1995, I started it here. We were doing a Smoky Mountain wrestling program with those guys as the Heels and PG-13 and Lawler and Brian Christopher and myself. It was company against company. And so Cornette asked me if I would come up and do a TV and we would reverse it, that the USWA PG went and Tommy and Doug went, Billy Jack Haynes went. So we had an angle we were doing with Mark Curtis, Brian Hildebrand as a referee, as the heel referee here, and he was the babyface referee there, the company referee. So we did angle. So I was doing a interview with Les Thatcher, and I did a big thing, and I said, "This isn't worth my time." Here I am in an elementary school, and somewhere in East Tennessee, God forsaken hellhole of the world, the hellhole of the state of Tennessee. Here I am. Don't even have an airport in this redneck town. I had to drive from Memphis, Tennessee. So what happened was I left the greatest wrestling. I switched Lance Russell heel on that television right there. I said the greatest wrestling announcer, Les Thatcher, in the history of the world, and everybody knows that, is Lance Russell. He knew I was coming here today. He said, "I know Lance Russell." I said, "Yeah, I know you do. He's the one that told me you were horrible." And then everybody moved. So I involved Lance in my heel promo. How about that?
I love it. Randy, you were actually a good heel. I've seen some of those Power Pro shows, and you were a really good heel.
Yeah, I guess. I'm trying to think when the first time that I was a heel, and it was then. It was for. I'll tell you another story. Just stories that pop in my head is that we had Mark wrestle me in Memphis for the blow off, and I would go over, and then I went to put him over in Knoxville, and it was at a time period I was hurt on Memphis in story on Memphis TV. So I took like 3 weeks off so the people couldn't see me. So back then you could get away with that, go to somebody else's TV and be on, and they wouldn't have a clue that I was hurt in Memphis. But anyway, so I had a match with Curtis, and the finish was my finish, but it was the old simple thing where the referee distracted. I go and get a bag of powder. I put the powder, and I'm going to throw it in his face. But as he's coming up, and before I could release the powder, he kicks the powder in my face and blinds me. Then schoolboys me, and the referee quick counted 1, 2, 3. But what happened was, this was the most dangerous trip. Now, as you know, every once in a while when I read these close things, Shane Russell, I have to put these readers on. Back then, I was not worth the crap without glasses, but I had contacts in, and that's it. Well, both contact came out of my eye because of that powder, and I didn't realize that at first, then couldn't find it after the show, and I was by myself. I had to drive back the 200 miles or the 185, whatever it is, from Knoxville back to Nashville. I was staying in Nashville then, blinded. It was dangerous, Shane.
That is a scary situation. Yeah, blinded on driving on I-40.
My buddy Nicholas City by the Bay. We have people from all over. Tanner in Washington. We got PJ. We got people all over. We got people in Nebraska. I wish David would come on, and later on would love to hear Mark from Kentucky. Mark, are you still in the house? And David, are you still in the house? Would love for you guys to join Shane Russell as we're talking.
Andrew Calvin Jr.'s on, and S.K. Lee's on. So, hey, I got a question for everybody. Is it, for those of you in Memphis, how many of you actually went down to the studio wrestling every Saturday morning? And I know some of you live in Lexington. I'm assuming you guys went to Rupp Arena and saw the matches up there. But I'm just curious how many people actually went to the studio wrestling on Channel 5 on Union Avenue or Channel 13 if you're older.
Crazy Gail Brooks went to both.
Oh,
Shelley Brooks is in Indiana, and that's an interesting thing. And as Shane says, when Lance left Memphis and went to WCW, it was sad to me, and it had to be a significant loss for Memphis wrestling. I have to give credit to Dave Brown for holding down the fort until Lance returned. That was a thing, obviously, with national TV. That's a goal for any broadcaster to go to be on national TV. The money, I'm sure, was great. I was never told, but I was sure that it was significantly higher than what he was being paid in Memphis. He had a son living in Atlanta at the time, and that worked out real good for him as well. But they have said this a million times and still don't understand it at all. They hired Lance Russell, then didn't let Lance Russell be Lance Russell. I don't have any words to explain that. And by the way, Brooks, who's now in Pensacola, living in Mobile, been in Mississippi. He's been to the WMC TV studios several times. And Lucian says, I wanted to, but all I got to see Memphis wrestling was when they had wrestling come to my hometown. Was that at the junior high school there in Madisonville, Kentucky? Lucian also saw an event at Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky. And why don't you, if people wanted to go to the Channel 13 wrestling show back in the day and the Channel 5 show back in the day, tell them who they got their tickets mailed to them from. Tell them that story.
I was just going to tell Brooks that when he said they'd mail us the tickets. Well, that whole process was done by my mom. The self-stamped addressed envelope would come in, and it would get mom would set them up, and she'd mail out all the tickets, a certain number for every Saturday, and she'd send them out. And it's amazing that we would get. I can vividly remember sitting there while she was opening up all the envelopes, and not only were there requests for tickets, there was letters, just comments about wrestling altogether, about Lance Russell, about Jerry Lawler, about Bill Dunn, about everybody. So it was quite a show when we'd sit at the dining room table and mom would start opening those letters, and then I'd help her put the tickets into the self-addressed stamped envelope and send them back to everybody.
Did you do that to Channel 13 as well, or just
I
Channel
did.
5?
Yeah, I did. I did it all. 13.
What was that
5.
address at it was at 485 or 487 Highland?
Oh boy. I can't remember the exact address. I'm sure
It was 485 or 487. I'm sure
485 sounds about right. But South Highland, yeah, Dad, I'm sure everybody knows, Dad was program director at WHBQ for many, many years, and that was his main job. And we spent a lot of time on Highland Avenue. Dad and a gentleman by the name of Bill Key. Dad was a big pool player. I don't know if people know that or not, but he shot a lot of pool in his day. And what he was really good at was bank pool. He knew his way around a pool table and banking the shots. But he and another gentleman that worked at WHBQ, Bill Key, they bought the Highland Q, which was just down from WHBQ. So they owned a pool altogether. I don't think a lot of people know that.
That is, I didn't know that, and I thought I knew most things about Lance's life and history. Al Tuttle is asking right now, was there ever one match or show that you really wanted to go see at the Mid-South Coliseum, but Lance wouldn't let you go?
There were a lot. When I was younger, that's a great question, Al. When I was younger, there were a lot of matches that I wanted to go see. I'm talking younger. I'm talking like 10, 12, 13 years old. And Dad he did not want me to go down there. Of course, I had school the next morning. And if I rode with him, it would be, by the time he did interviews and everything after the matches, I mean, it would be, 11 o'clock, midnight by the time he got done down there. So he did not want me staying out that late. But God, there were so many matches that I wanted to go see. Now, the one I do remember going to see, was I went down to see the televised match between Muhammad Ali and the Japanese wrestler, Randy. Who was that? Help me out there.
Inoki.
Muhammad Ali spent the Japanese wrestler spent the entire time on his back around. I went down there with him. I'll never forget Sam Bass was there too.
It was at Cook?
No, it was at the Coliseum.
Was it? Yeah, it was on. It was before pay-per-view. It was closed circuit television is what that was. And real quick, a couple of questions I want to get to before they kind of go away. And I can answer this, or you can. David Smith said, how did your mom decide who gets tickets? And basically everybody would get ticket as long as they had the self-addressed stamp envelope. But I would guess there was like a 3 or 4 month waiting period for the tickets.
Well,
And
she had a process. She had, as soon as the envelope came in, she would put it in behind the other ones that were already there. So, I mean, it was first come, first serve. So, she'd had a whole list of envelopes. And then when the new ones came in, she'd stick them right in behind those. And then she knew, I don't know, I don't remember the number, Randy, how many tickets that the studio held, but, she would, do it that way. Scott Arts. I'm not. I know that name. Well, how do I know that? Is that Scott?
Scott Middleton, that the Memphis Mayhem wrestling book.
Right. Yeah.
Put that.
So he's asking me about favorite wrestler or tag team. Scott, I'm old school. So the first wrestler that just really got my attention was the fabulous one, Jackie Fargo. Often imitated, never duplicated. He was my favorite growing up, without a doubt. As far as a tag team goes, golly, I go way back on that. I still have a soft spot for Don and Al Green, the Von Brauners. I mean, the Bounty Hunters. I mean, I go way back on that.
Al Tuttle says, did Joe LeDuc or the Mongolian Stomper scare you when you were younger?
Mongolian Stomper didn't. Joe LeDuc, I think, scared everybody. He was, and he scared Dad. I mean, Dad. There were two wrestlers that Dad he felt uncomfortable interviewing or being next to. One was Joe LeDuc, and the other one was Randy Savage. He said, you just never knew what was going to happen or what they were going to do. He just never felt comfortable being around either one of them.
That is interesting, as we have real good wrestling talk going on tonight, and we have Rod in the backstage area, and I think he wants to say hello to Shane Russell, and he might have a question. So
I love Rod. I'm going to walk around just for a minute because I need to get a cord to keep my phone charged here, so hang on with me.
Okay, and I will get as Shane is going away to get a
cord I can put on my phone.
Cable. Hey, Rod, you're back. You went away on me.
I'm sorry, Randy. I had to take care of a personal matter. I apologize.
Rod, how you doing, buddy?
Shane, it's been rough lately, but I'm doing okay, brother.
Well, good to see you, man. I'm glad you're back.
It's good. It's good to see you, sir, and I'm glad to be back.
Look at that shirt he's wearing.
I love it.
Yep. Hey, Shane, speaking of shirts, do you sell, or is there any T-shirts to buy of your father?
I don't, Rod. Back when Dad was alive and we were getting back into wrestling, we did create some shirts. And just to be honest with you, I just didn't feel comfortable selling them after he passed. I know.
Totally understand.
Yeah, I get a lot of people asking me about them. I think Randy, I know you've got a shirt, and I've got several at home that I wear, but I just never felt comfortable doing that, selling those, going forward. So I just stopped. But I do have a lot of people asking me about them.
All right.
I would.
Oh, sorry, Randy.
No, I'm used to that with you. Go ahead and ask the question.
No. I was just going to ask Shane if you have a personal library of the WMC days with your dad and Dave, or do you just watch it on YouTube, or do you have actual tapes? Because I know Lawler basically has a tape library of different episodes and his favorite episodes. So I was wondering if you had any tapes from the old days of your dad.
Great question, Rod. I don't. I look at YouTube every day. I watch something on YouTube about it. Now, I do have a lot of Dad's personal stuff that he had, a lot of books of wrestling that he kept. I have his old tuxedo that he used to wear, and I've got some pictures and stuff of his that he's kept for many years. But as far as tapes, I don't. I think those were pretty prized, and I'm sure Lawler or WWE or somebody, has the rights to those.
Right, exactly.
Shane, we're going to hook you up, and I'll have to get Adam to do it. This is an external hard drive. And somehow or another, Adam found this deal and he duplicated it off for me. This is from 1980, not the full 90-minute show, but the entire run of the USWA. Usually it was from the Evansville, Indiana feed. So every show from 1980 to 1997 is on this hard drive. And then also every one of the Power Pro shows. So I'll get Adam to see if he can copy his to. We'll just go buy a blank one, and that'll be a project that we'll over the next month or so we'll try to work on. Would you like it if we send you that where you have everything?
Are you kidding? I would love it. Yeah, I'm an old student of old wrestling, and I love to get old stuff and old videos and all that. Rod, I know you're the same way, man. You love the old stuff.
Yep. I watch more YouTube than I do anything else.
Yeah.
I'm a big YouTube. So here we are, Shane. I'm going to do the hot tag. I'm going to go try to look for something. So you kind of pay attention to the comments. If anybody has a comment, you can refer to them. And you and Al. Now I may have trouble finding what I want to find. I would have an hour ago had no problem, but I told you my shelf in my closet fell down, and I got a big disaster.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go look for something. So can you guys have a conversation? But
Yeah.
Rod, sometime with me, you take over. Shane is the lead announcer, and you follow Shane, okay?
No problem, bud. No problem.
All right, I'll be back.
Yeah, Rod, I don't know how far back you got, anybody who's listening, Scott or Glenn or Lucian or PJ or Al or anybody, but I love the old Channel 13 stuff back in the day. And I don't know how far back you go, Rod, but again, we just mentioned a few of them that I talked about. Jackie Fargo and the Green Brothers and Carl and Kurt Von Bronner with Saul Weingroff and the Bounty Hunters with Jimmy Ken. I mean, do you go back that far, Rod?
Well, I was born in '68. Okay, so
Okay.
I would say my first early memories would be around 72, 73. I was about 4, 5, 6 years old. Because anything prior to about 5 or 6 would be fuzzy for me.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if anybody else that's listening, goes back that far or not, but when I first started watching wrestling, golly, of course Don and Al Green, but the Herb Welch. I'm sure you've probably heard that name.
Right, I've heard the name.
Was in there, and of course the Fuller family was all over it, Buddy and Robert and Ron and all those guys. So, but yeah, I just love that old stuff. Not to say there's anything bad with the new stuff. I love Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. I don't know if there's any better wrestling matches. And I've said this before, any new guys that's coming into the wrestling match, into the wrestling business, if they don't watch Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee matches, they're missing out. I mean, that's just classic.
Right. Like you talking about Lawler and Dundee, but I've watched it a few times lately. The funniest, one of the greatest things I liked was when Lawler, Eddie Marlin, because your dad and Dundee were sitting around the desk one day and they were building up the Lizard League town, because Eddie, talked to your dad and you said, or no, your dad said, Eddie, one of these guys like ain't gonna be here like after this match, you know. So he said you gotta really do your homework and bring someone in, you know, another top talent in once one of these guys leave. And it basically was maybe not the whole show, but a good 30 minutes. It was just dedicated to Lawler, Dundee, Eddie, and your dad sitting at the desk, like talking up the upcoming match. That,
Right.
you know what? You can find it on YouTube. It's about 28, between 28 and 35 minutes. And all they're doing is talking. There's a little action in the ring, but it's mainly just the four gentlemen talking at the desk. And in my opinion, it's classic
Yeah.
Memphis.
Yeah. Great observation. Really good. Lucian says he remembers the days back in the early 70s. So he's been around a little while. And of course, Scott, he says 83 and 84, which was a hot time in Memphis wrestling. That's for sure.
Exactly.
You see what I went and got,
I,
Shane?
I see it. It's the hello again, everybody shirt. Yeah, I love it. It's amazing, you know. I wear that shirt around in Pensacola, a few times, and I've actually had people come up and say, "Hey, is that Lance Russell from Memphis Wrestling?" And I say, "Yep, it sure is," and we just get into a great conversation about it.
Hey, how's the Riptides going on, Shane, my man? Lately, obviously, in that era, we had a drowning that affected the state of Arkansas. Ryan Mallett passed away in. I'm trying to think of when that was. I think it was in June. How's the Riptides been lately?
Riptides have been very calm lately, so we haven't had as many as what we have. But yeah, those are definitely something not to fool around with. Great time down here, but just be careful, be aware of your surroundings and what's going on. Pay attention to the lifeguards and the flags that are out. Hey, Randy, I just want to give you a heads up. I've got about 10 minutes left, so
That's right. That's right.
yeah. But hey, I love the questions. Anybody got any more? I'd love to answer anything about Lance Russell or Memphis wrestling or anything at all. Anybody's got
Yeah,
any?
y'all are babysitting tonight, right?
You know, my wife and I, we had the grandkids all day today. We took them to lunch. We went to a little indoor amusement park, and Sarah, just had her first baby. Sadie Jean is her name.
All right.
So I've got two granddaughters right now, and we are going to have another one in January. So I believe, and that looks like it's going to be a grandson. So thank goodness.
Now, Carly or Sarah?
Carly.
That's all right. That's fantastic. When's the last time you've had the opportunity to come to Memphis?
Oh, gee, it was probably back in the spring. Debbie and I came up for something. I can't remember what it was. I'm going to be back in town in September. So looking forward to getting back in town, spending a few days there. And actually, I don't know if I should bring this up or not, but I miss the old days of going to local wrestling shows. I don't do it anymore in Pensacola. I just haven't done it, but I would like to go in Memphis. I know there's several wrestling things going on in town these days, and I know there's a lot of feuding going on too. So I don't know. I don't know which one to go to or which one to see or whatever, but I know there's Memphis Wrestling, of course, and Bluff City and 901 and EPW, I think it is, down in Mississippi. So I know there's a lot going on around there.
David Smith from you notice how quick that I just kind of changed subjects from that?
That's fine.
I'm certainly not going to give any of those people any plugs at all. David wants to know if your dad ever met Elvis.
Hey, He did not. Hey, real quick, I got to show you my newest grandbaby.
Oh,
This is me. Everybody meet Sadie Jean.
hey, Sadie Jean.
Can
Oh, you cute little thing.
She's about 3 months old right now,
As of yesterday.
as of yesterday. So
Look, this is your great granddaddy. See?
that's
See the
it.
shirt? Yellow again, Sadie.
So
It's
Sadie
what he
Jean.
would say.
Well, she says hello to everybody. Say bye-bye.
She says, "Welcome to Memphis Wrestling."
All right, just I've got a phone call I got to take, Shane Russell. So you and Rod take over, and I'll be back with the. And I know you just have a few minutes left, so I'll make this quick, okay?
Right. I'll answer a couple of these questions, Dave.
And I'll mute this audio, and then I'll be right back.
Okay. Dave asking my dad ever met Elvis. He never actually met Elvis. He did meet some other really big name stars that came in through Memphis who did an old program in there called Talent Party. He did a lot. He did meet a lot of them. Al asked, was it hard going anywhere with your dad as a kid in Memphis? It wasn't hard, but everywhere we went, people would always come up and want to either talk to him about wrestling or what happened on Saturday, what's going to happen on Monday, wanted to get an autograph. But again, Dad loved that stuff. He was more than happy to talk to people or sign anything that they wanted to. So yeah, it was fun. I tell you, it was fun growing up until the time Jerry Lawler came around and started talking about banana nose. And if you can't tell, I do share that same nose that my dad had. So I was known in grade school and junior high as Banana Nose Junior. And I remind Jerry Lawler all the time when I see him, hey, thanks for making my childhood a little bit tougher.
Did Jerry ever tweak your nose like he did your dad?
No, he never did do that. So, but yeah, Lucian, you're exactly right about grandkids. You spoil them and have fun with them, and then you give them right back to your kids. So let them do all the hard work. So yeah, but I appreciate all the comments about Sadie. She is something else. So love the grandkids, love hanging out with them. But so Rod, where you got any good big plans coming up? I think did I see where you're going over to the gathering?
Yes, I am, sir, because I leave in 8 days come tomorrow, and I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah, that's Dad
traveled to be there. Like I've gone to those things like in Philadelphia, but this will be the first time I ever get on an actual airplane to go to one. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's over in Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dad did that a couple of times. I went with him one time over there, and we just had a blast. And it looks like you've got a great turnout with some really big names coming there.
Yeah, Lawler was supposed to be there, but unfortunately, because of his recent health, he can't be there. He had to cancel.
Oh, that's a shame. I think there's a couple.
Because I was thinking of one thing since you mentioned Charlotte. That night that it was in Memphis, WWE was in Memphis that one night.
Right.
And Lawler brought your dad over.
Right. I was there.
Did you happen to go with your dad that night?
I was there. Yeah, that was a great night. We went. Dad had never seen the WWE and how that went on. So we took him down there, and he was just amazed at what a big production that was. But the greatest thing about it was he got to see some of the old guys in the back. He got to see Dutch Mantell. He got to see Downtown Bruno. and then of course he got to meet Vince McMahon and Triple H. Got to see some of the Armstrongs were back there. So it was really good seeing the old guys and meeting some of the new guys. They treated him very well. It was just, he had just had a blast doing that, Rod. Thanks for mentioning that.
No problem. It was awesome to see.
Yeah.
All right.
Al,
Shane, I appreciate you being on with us tonight. We need to make it more of a habit that you come back and see us more often, because you're always an asset and people get really excited every time you're on the show. So we appreciate it very much, Shane.
Well,
Thanks a lot.
Thank you guys so much for having me and talking a little bit about Lance Russell and wrestling. And I'm sorry I have to go, but my wife and I are we probably, after having the grandkids all day today, I think we're both a little tired and need to go get some rest.
I'm sure you're not used to that anymore, are you?
No, not a lot. Hey, and if anybody, I just want to let you know, anybody that's not friends with me on Facebook, I am on Facebook. I love to hear from you and hook up with you and talk Memphis wrestling. But and if I'm ever, if you ever come down to Pensacola, give me a shout. We'll go have lunch or talk a little bit about wrestling. So, hey, Randy, thanks again, guy. We appreciate it. You take care.
Thank you very much, Shane. You're an asset to this show. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right. Very good. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. But I always enjoy talking to you and Shane both.
We'll be back with the Randy Hales Show in just a minute.
Living the Dream, Memphis Wrestling, The Randy Hales Story, is available now at randyhalesmemphiswrestling.com.
All right. Rod Robinson's in the house. I'm Randy Hales. I'm in the house. Loved having Shane Russell. Last couple of minutes with Rod. Rod, answer my question of the day. If you won $2 million, what would you do with it?
Because I would get my own place, and then I would put most of it away for a rainy day and have fun with whatever I kept left over. But I would get my own place and start leading my own life. Pretty much. Because that's my number one goal in my life. I know everyone on you and everyone on this show probably has their own house and stuff. But I unfortunately don't have that yet. But that's my number one dream in my life, is to own my own property and live my life on my own to my fullest potential.
That would be great. And hopefully, is it next week or the week after that you will not be able to be on the show? When are you going to the Carolinas?
Because I leave on Tuesday, August the 1st. Tuesday, August the 1st.
All right. So I got you. David Smith saying, not sure how long you lived in Chicago. Did you ever go see Windy City Wrestling?
No. The only thing I've seen here basically is SmackDown and Raw. I went to the Allstate Arena a few times to see one or the other.
So you never, because Chicago's been a big town, successful town for AEW.
But I've never been to an AEW show, but I hope to get to one very soon.
Rod, I appreciate you being with us, and hopefully you can join us next week.
Sounds good, brother, because you guys have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That is nice. As now we're waiting for Mark in Kentucky. Mark in Kentucky. So if you certainly can, and I will go ahead and put in the comments section, but I think you might be able to see that because you watch on YouTube. You hadn't commented lately. Would love to have you on the show and talk some modern wrestling. And the link is in the comment section on YouTube, also on Facebook. Also, you can take a picture of that link that's up there right now. Tanner, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from anybody that wants to talk to some real life. What would you do if you won $2 million? Would love to know that for sure. That's interesting. What would I do? I would pay off my debts. I would certainly help out entities that I think that would certainly need the help, and I would also like to have a physical Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame and have it here in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I would like, even though that I'm sure it's not for sale, it's a property of the hospital, the old Arthur Branch Auditorium that's now the San Bernardino Hospital Auditorium where wrestling was for years. I would like to buy that and turn that into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame and have it right here in my hometown of Jonesboro, Arkansas. I would also like to have a building that you could do a studio type of show, and I would like to do that and have it with the Jonesboro station, Channel 8, the Memphis channel, Channel 5. Certainly, that would take a lot of money, but that was always a dream for me as well. We're waiting for Mark from Kentucky. He was had a couple of comments earlier, but then he went away. I think we'll go back to the video right now, and we did this a little bit last week, and we did the conversation that I had in June with Brandon Baxter when I co-hosted the Front Row with Bud Rowe. Brandon and I had a great conversation. Then we went live after it was over. We went live after it was over and was on a live stream. And I'm just going to play you a little bit of the interview that we did with Brandon Baxter after the radio show went away. And I am trying to get to that right now. Appreciate Rod, appreciate Shane. And now we want to go back to the Front Row with Bud Rowe, Randy Myers, and myself hosted. And here's me with Brandon Baxter. I think it's going to be with Brandon Baxter. And
they have all these different wrestlers out there, and you can have your picture taken with anybody. And every Friday night, I wanted to have my picture taken with Gary because he was my hero. So it's $5 to get your Polaroid. You're standing there with him. He was always sweet to me as a kid. I'll never forget him coming to Dallas and coming to work for the Global Wrestling Federation. Super sweet to me as an adult, and I'll always cherish those memories.
Man, we have to. Thank you. I appreciate it. We have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of history, man.
I feel like we barely scratched the surface today.
Oh, and I have a great Kerry Von Erich story when I realized he was coming back to work for us. So maybe next time.
All right, guys, thanks for being a part of the show today, and thanks to everybody for listening. Join us tomorrow. Marcus Carlton will be our guest co-host. Tomorrow we're going to visit with Gosnell football coach Lewis Ernest. We'll also talk with Josh Baker. He's the brand new baseball coach at Brooklyn High School. And I believe we're going to have somebody with the Impact Club, which is the NIL collective out of Day-State, joining us on the program tomorrow as well. Thanks to all for joining us, and have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Ticket Radio Network.
Mark, we have some technical problems here in my studio, so I am not sure if we are on YouTube. And now this is the aftermath. Brandon Baxter, I'm Randy Hales, and we're ready to go with the extra after. Was this not fun? As we're streaming, we're all over the place. Hey,
I don't think you
okay, I was about to be mad.
I'm saving everybody from
me. Thanks for that interview. Was that weird, me interviewing you?
That's not weird. What's weird is how fast it went. Because I came in here as quick as I could after we were done, and it just literally, I don't feel like we got to anything. Because there's so much. It's such a deep story. Like the idea. that I wanted to talk about that story with Kerry Von Erich. I'll never forget. I knew Kerry, he had his WWF run, and Kerry Von Erich is in the dressing room. I go into the dressing room at intermission to see what's next for me to do. I think I was ring announcing at the time, and General Skandar Akbar was right there, and sitting at the desk with Akbar was Kerry Von Erich, my hero. And I'm like, wait, I'm in a dressing room with Kerry Von Erich. And I'll never forget, because they kind of looked at me like I wasn't supposed to see that was happening. They were making plans for Kerry to come in, and I closed that door as the most excited kid on the planet. And then I just remember Kerry coming up to me every time he would see me, hey, buddy, and it's always really super sweet.
What would you think? And obviously, we talked a lot about Michael Hayes in professional wrestling. We can talk Texas, we can talk here. Your biggest influences.
Well, as far as personally or just
a little bit of both.
I mean, Kerry for sure, as far as just wanting to be a wrestler. Michael Hayes, because Michael did so much for me. And we talked, unfortunately, some of the best stuff that we talked about was off the air, talking to Adam about, how influential Michael was on me and how much he helped me. Sometimes with tough love, sometimes live on television, tough love.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's obviously Michael. I wouldn't have had the career that I had without you believing in me. And still to this day, that wouldn't have happened. So, Lawler, the greatest overall performer I think that I've ever been around at everything. Like who can do what he can do in all aspects of it? He's incredible. Bill Dundee. I mean, you can just go through so many. The PG-13. It was just, we could sit here for hours and hours, and hopefully people would like it and tell wrestling stories and talk about those old days and those old memories.
Now, I can probably say your favorite Power Pro moment, and we spoke earlier. I think the Michael Hayes thing would be right there.
Yeah.
The favorite USWA, because you mentioned the laundry list of stuff we did. Do you have the favorite thing with the USWA?
It was all so fresh and so new. You get lit on fire by Jerry Lawler. That was one of my favorite things to show people because, hey, it's pretty cool. I'm dressed up like a chicken. I've been tarred and feathered, and Lawler just lights me on fire. And I remember running off, and there's such a. I don't know if you want me to share the story now. I know you're trying to wrap.
No, I mean, I'm just worried about No, this is important to document. Very important. So I want you to tell.
Saturday morning TV, Jerry Lawler says something about the fact that he's going to tar and feather whoever my guys were, probably Brian Lee and Jim Harris at the time. And he said, and Brandon Baxter, what's it going to look like when your hair goes up in fire and up in flames? That was on Saturday morning. I was scared to death he was going to throw fire at me. I get to the Mid-South Coliseum, and they never say a thing about the fire at all. So I think I'm just going to be tarred and feathered until Bill Dundee says, get up, he's going to burn you. And I thought, oh, this is not good. Because I had the hair. I thought I was going to catch fire. So I remember when I stood there, I stood up. Here comes the fire. My face is engulfed in flames. I have all that blonde hair. And I'm thinking I wasn't prepped for this. I thought I was going to really catch fire. So when I knew that my face was not disfigured and burned, I ran off because I didn't know what else to do because I was scared to death. So if you watch that video, I'm running out and my hands are going every which way. We didn't even, maybe we did the towel thing. I can't remember for sure if we did the towel thing or not, but I remember just being happy that I lived through it because it was such a wild deal. But okay, back to USWA. Surreal moments. I'll give you surreal moments.
Okay.
Being power bombed by Sid, surreal. First power bomb, I lived through that one. He said he wanted to give me the second one. I knew I lived through the first one. I sure didn't want to take the second one. He got me, and he was fine. Being at the Mid-South Coliseum in the ring, watching The Undertaker make his entrance with Paul Bearer. I remember standing there thinking, why am I here? I don't deserve to be in this moment. But that was surreal. The Smoky Mountain USWA stuff. I was, being around Bob Armstrong and Jim Cornette and you and PG and rock and roll. If I could go back and relive any era of my life, it would be that era, that 95, 96 era.
Even over the Power Pro era and the Micah part.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you were young
and
just get going.
And I'm better at it. I would be better at it now. And I tell you this all the time.
All the
tell
time.
Derek King and all of our wrestling buddies, the contemporaries from that time, that I wish we could go back and do it again with today's knowledge. Because all the stuff that I go back and watch from the Power Pro stuff, I'm like, that's okay. I could have done, but I do better now. So that's what people who haven't seen me in a long time, that's what they saw. And I wish I could go back and do some of that stuff again. I think if there's any hunger for me as far as a talent in wrestling, it's just to show people, hey, I've grown and I can do better than I did then.
Now, I think it's important to talk about kind of what led you to where you are in life. First of all, you have a beautiful wife that she had her birthday yesterday. You have a beautiful, nice, charming, smart son. You're successful. You've been on this radio station, this cluster for over 20 years. I mean, successful. But I want to go back to how life is weird. We got a phone call when Power Pro going on, and we had this relationship with the WWF. And Gary Harpo from this building, because we had run a deal with the other group on the other side of town.
I forgot about that.
With the JCs, sponsor with the JCs. Gary saw that could be big. He contacted us. I was a heel. So the person, you lived in Jonesboro along with me in Jonesboro too, but I, as a heel, I couldn't come up here all the time. So you got that relationship with K-Fine from Gary Harpo, the program director, the morning show host, Ugly Ed Johnson. So 2 questions. How important was K-Fine to our success in Jonesboro, which with a lot of history of Jonesboro wrestling, the best money houses ever done was at Earl Bell during that era, no doubt. How important was, and let me throw one more thing in and I'll shut up and let you talk. One time, here is Gary, and Gary says, Brandon, so I see a lot of future in you. If wrestling ever went away, come see me. You'd be a great radio personality. And me and you both thought it kind of made us mad. Wrestling going away, we'll do this till we die. That's a bunch of stuff to unpack. I'm using Conrad Thompson's line that he likes to do on Jeff's thing. But unpack that. Strong stuff.
Man, yeah. So if it wasn't for the K-Fine relationship in 1998, I wouldn't have had the platform here. I don't know that I would have stayed here. Yeah, I mean, it was such a strong deal. When you look at probably overall the best stuff that happened in Power Pro as far as regular money and houses, it was the Earl Bell shows. Even more so than New Daisy. And, we did a couple of Mid-South Coliseum shows. Let's take those out. Because it's just a totally different beast as opposed to a weekly type of a deal. But it was vitally important for me because it was a platform that allowed me to be seen outside of just the wrestling television. There were people who listened to K-Fine who weren't watching that Channel 5 show. They weren't wrestling fans, but I got that exposure through that. So when the wrestling company went away in 2002 and the opportunity was there, I literally thought, what am I going to do? Because all I ever wanted to do was wrestling. And Gary, I had turned down Gary Harpo. Gary, I don't really want to do that because
he was out of radio by that time, I think.
Yeah, he was done. But I didn't entertain the idea. I was a radio fan as a kid, but at the same point, I never dreamed of doing that because I was going to be on television. I wanted to be in the wrestling business. But then it was like, well, what am I going to do for a living? And hey, what's this radio thing really look like? Talk me through it. 20 years later, it's pretty remarkable because I would have never dreamed it would be as gratifying as it has become, that it would open the doors that it's opened, that it would allow me to there's no doubt in this market specifically, you can be, I don't want to make this sound wrong. Wrestling there's a wrestling bubble that people can live in, and that you're wrestling people. But here, I've been able to fill so many bubbles. It's the wrestling bubble, it's the country music bubble, it's the pop bubble, it's the Arkansas State bubble, it's the civic organizations bubble. So just because of those opportunities early on, what I've been able to achieve here in the notoriety is pretty incredible. And most people you don't have the opportunities like this, like I've had.
How important was your wrestling experience, TV wrestling experience? Because you were, let's face it, and I asked Randy Myers a question before you ever got in the thing, because we know how we are about our wrestling business. Mm-hmm. People coming in from the outside. I said, because he was a producer or a news personality on a station in Paragould that you did, and I said, did you resent Brandon Baxter, the radio person, coming into your business? And he said, absolutely not. I knew he had talent. I thought he'd be a success. But going in that world, how important, because there's a lot of country music, a lot more country music fans than there was of Power Pro Wrestling. How important was your background in doing TV and business wise and wrestling and becoming a personality, how important was your wrestling career to the career that's honestly is where you've made your success career wise with years for sure? How important was wrestling to you becoming what I think, and no doubt in my mind, no matter what people think, is without a doubt the top radio personality in the history of this market?
Well,
No doubt.
I appreciate that.
I've been here a while, a day or two.
No, and I'm very much not an ego person. I always think I could do better. But the how important was wrestling to me? It's extremely important because it allowed me to process it through a different lane than most people were going to see it. Most people came in and they were going to talk about what they were told to talk about by their program director. And to me, this is about coming in and yes, we're going to do the stuff that we need to do to promote the stuff that we have to promote and read live reads we have to read. But it's about character development. It's about having stories and payoff and the things that can be that can make people comfortable. I think you want to be comfortable to your audience. You want to be able to live up to their expectations. And I have to be able to deliver that stuff. I process it different because of wrestling than most radio people. And that's when I talk to young people, if they want me to coach them, I'm going to try to explain, hey, this is different. This is show business. Yeah, you're on the radio. This might not be a movie. This might not be a TV. This might not be TV. That might not be wrestling, but it's still show business. You're not just the guy reading between the songs. You can be, but there's thousands of people who do that just read between the stuff, that don't really permeate a market. And if you want to be a personality, you got to find a way to stand out. And you stand out by storytelling and having payoffs. And I think that's what we've been able to do. I think I lay out and process the show different.
You know, I think we were ribbing earlier, just this process of guest hosting for Bud. I think it might have shocked them. And you were ribbing earlier. You weren't
I wasn't ribbing.
And you
I knew what you did.
And you weren't
You've been prepping for 3 weeks
now,
because you care.
If I wouldn't have been, you wouldn't have been mad at me, but you say, something must be wrong with Randy.
Yeah.
I mean, does
You were a prepper.
Do you not care? But
my show's hyper prep too. I didn't start 3 weeks ago on today's show,
right?
But I'm doing a show every single day.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's different, yeah. But at the same point, like my show, I believe is going to be more thought out than any other show on the radio. That's a statewide or regional show, because I'm processing what we're talking about, what we talked about yesterday, at what time, how this story pays off from one day to the other. Have I talked too much about this country artist compared to this one?
That's
all
what I do.
Processed.
That's what I say about my segment. It's 155 weeks that I've done the Bauer Hour on Wednesday, and they were not so much Randy, but Bud does. He really messes with me, and he's serious. He thinks it's a wasted thing, and you have to be flexible with the questions. I know that, but you got to have a game plan.
Yeah.
And I want to close.
And we might not even get to half it. And we didn't get to half it.
No.
But you have to know where you could go.
That's okay. And I want to go this way to wrap this up and let you get either back to work or back to Leslie and Kai, whatever's next. I may take him to the Waffle House. I know that's not all.
About that
Hey, squeeze him in here for just a second.
Okay.
Adam, and I know you a lot of times, if Randy's going to be here, you don't put yourself on camera,
Right.
and you do on the show and stuff like that. But just your appreciation for Memphis wrestling and what all of us did, and I take myself as a very small part of that. But your love for that and what you try to give back, we appreciate that, because we know you pour back in too, that you care about what we did. And
He spends a lot of time, and he drove from Georgia to here.
right when you said Adam's going to be there, I thought, wait, did he move back closer? Because who in the hell is going to do that?
Who's going to drive that far to see Randy?
Yeah, but it's your birth, all the different stuff. That's just cool. It's cool to see people that care.
I know we've talked about this before, and I'll just say it real quick for the benefit of people watching. Very similar. The one and only time I ever did anything on Memphis TV, it was basically a half-ass rib, thanks to Lawler. On the right? Yeah. Who would ever guess, right?
We're on the internet, so we can say ass. Don't panic as a program director.
Okay.
So it was on the Halloween show.
Yeah.
And
that's his. The whole show was his.
Oh yeah. Randy had nothing to do with that. That was a Lawler monster gimmick thing.
100%.
Right. So I had the opportunity to ring announce that show, and of course it was freaking horrible. But the first person that I spoke to in the back was Brandon. And he already had the Spider-Man costume on and everything.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So just had it was a green sheet of paper like this that at the TV station they would print them out on colored paper. Yeah. And Brandon wrote down the matches for me and everything and handed it to me, and that was all that I had. But Brandon was very nice to me and just I bet probably just you probably thought I remember being that age.
Yeah,
I remember
100%.
being around the wrestling business, and so I appreciate that. I've always remembered that because that was my one and only time ever doing anything on Channel 5. And it's just neat that we have that shared experience. So.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because, and I related to it. I knew how nerve wracking that could be. I knew being the kid, and the people who took me in, like Mike Davis, who is amazing, Maniac Mike Davis.
Yeah.
He was here with the Rock and Roll RPMs.
Yep.
Super influential on me early
Right.
on. General Skandar Akbar, who is such a heel, but was so sweet to me as a person. Black Bart. God, there were so many people. Rod Price, who took me in and were sweet. So I wanted to do the same thing.
Right.
I've never been an asshole. I would like to think that people can't say I've been an asshole.
Maybe a few guys in this building might say that. You think?
I think they know, maybe. But
No.
intentions are always right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, happy birthday, Adam.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate what you do.
I appreciate everything you do too. We'll end with this. I promise two things. I think I know you, and I explained the situation. It's true. We got a business relationship, and we certainly had the good times and bad times and the on-air times that we were the worst enemies in the world. At time, we've had a best friend relationship. We had a big brother, little brother, somewhat at some times, even like a father-son type of thing. I mean, it runs deep. It really does. And I always say, when you're a busy guy, some people gripe you don't return phone calls or whatever, whether it's a death in my family or recently you went to the wedding of my nephew, you were there. So I think I know you. I am going to answer two questions, and you're going to tell me if I got it right.
Okay.
The best thing that happened to Brandon Baxter due to wrestling was moving to Jonesboro. The second thing, best thing that happened in Jonesboro with radio, and that's meeting Leslie and having Kai.
Yeah, that's
Am I
ultimately what it's all about.
Am I right
Yeah,
on the money?
100%,
On
yeah.
those,
All the other stuff, it's awesome. And I've had a really awesome, great career and great run. But at the end of the day, what's going to be your legacy and what's going to be remembered? It's the people. It's the same thing with our wrestling friends, though.
right.
You know, we can do all the angles in the world, and we can go to all the arenas and do all the different stuff. But at the end of the day, it's the relationships with the people.
Radio station mentor. I said no more questions, but wrestling, we know your wrestling mentors. Thank God I'm one of them. In radio, would you go back to Gary Harpo for having the initial thing? Ed Johnson was the first program director. Somebody, I don't know.
Watching Terry Wood and Michael Steele. And, you know, like this, our company here might frown, but, you know, I started at our competition. And there were really great people there who helped me. You know, the Trey Staffords of the world, and the Christy Matthews, and the Rick Christians, they all helped me too. And then coming here and Kevin Box, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do this without Kevin Box and Larry James and the people who believed in me early, like a Mike Bennett and a Mike Barber. And because when I got here, because I was a wrestling guy, they didn't see it. They didn't understand it. You know, we got a wrestler coming in that's going to be a personality. A lot of people didn't want to take me out to their events and their remotes because I was bald and I had tattoos, and I had earrings, and I had a chain around my neck. And they were like, this doesn't fit the bill of either a country or a pop station. You know, it was wrestling that I was still the wrestling personality, but trying to go into mainstream business. And a lot of people didn't see it, but then the people who did, like the Mike Bennett's and the Mike Barbers of the world, they helped to kind of push me forward. And just, man, so many great people and consultants that help along the way.
Thanks so much for being with us
all day, really.
On the front row with Bud Row. That was fun. And of course, on the streaming, I want you, as you see the camera, and you will see the clothes. And this is, I'm going to say this for the first time, and this gives me a little chills to do it. Happy birthday, Adam, producing this show. And this, I'm working, before I was the experienced guy in the wrestling business teaching him. And now he's absolutely best in the market. And this kind of made me a little nervous talking to you today. It really did. And I'm going to steal this word from one thing. I don't even know what it means, but Corey Macklin said this one time. See if you remember. He said, it's a plum pleasing pleasure. Yeah. I don't know what the hell that means.
That's Corey, yeah.
I don't know what the hell. For Brandon Baxter, I'm Randy Hales for the Randy Hales Show. Bye-bye. All right. How about that? What a loaded show, man. We had Shane Russell for the first good hour and a half. That was fun. Then we had Rod Robinson was in the house with us, was hoping to have Mark from Kentucky. He hadn't came into the area, and I hate that. Always super to talk to him. PJ like that talk segment, and that is on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ at Randy Hales. Be sure to check that out. Click on the option, the tab that says live, and then just scroll down and you will see Randy Hales, Brandon Baxter on the front row with Bud Rowe. And that was special. Brandon and I are friends. We certainly don't see each other as much as we used to when we were working together all the time. You know, for 156 weeks, I went to do the front row with Bud Rowe every single week and did the wrestling hour, and probably once a month or every 6 weeks. It's a studio next door, but a lot of times the on-air light was on, and he's working. I understand that. And so about every 4 to 6 weeks, I would go in and say hello, in and out, just real quick. But the chemistry in that interview is just tremendous, and it's the one thing when you're a wrestling guy, it never leaves you. I think that I wanted to show that video right then to just see. And certainly, we didn't play every bit of it. That's why I want you to go to the YouTube page and listen to the interview that was on the air. Then obviously we went off the air and had the interview, and it was just great stuff. And the chemistry there is just is great. It's the chemistry of two wrestling guys, and it's a connection that's just there and will always be there. No, there's just no doubt in the world about that. All right, won't be a show Saturday, won't be a show Sunday, but on Monday it will be the Power Hour at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Be sure to catch us for that, because I think that will be a lot of fun as we watch show number 74. Very interesting date. September the 11th, 1999. Who would have known 2 years later our world would come to a stop in a big, big, big way? So we'll show that show. Then on Tuesday, I wanted to tell you that we have a big show on Talking Memphis Wrestling Tuesday night, part 3 of Jerry Lawler's greatest opponents. And I will tell you right now a special preview of this show, and it will be awesome. It will be a lot of video, a lot of stuff, a lot of things to talk about. And this is what we will show. We will show the 1987 when Austin Idol and Tommy Rich posted, nutshotted is what they did, nutshotted Jerry Lawler. We will show that. That will be 28 seconds. And then our next video will be highlights of one of the most famous matches ever in Memphis, the hair versus hair match, 9 minutes, 33 seconds highlights. No time, no disqualification in a cage. Jerry Lawler, hair versus hair against Austin Idol. Tommy Rich ended up coming out and screwing Lawler out of his hair. And it was a riot situation afterwards, and it was absolutely crazy. Video number 4 this week will be Eddie Gilbert getting fireballed by Jerry Lawler. Then a wild brawl out in the parking lot with Jerry Lawler and Eddie Gilbert. That's 11:06. And then we will show Eddie Gilbert running over Jerry Lawler in a car, a short little video right there, 3:29. The big parking lot brawl was 11 minutes, 6 seconds, 11 minutes, 6 seconds. Then after that, we will show some 90s highlights. Jerry Lawler and Eddie Gilbert with Michael St. John doing the announcing. We also have, I skipped right over this, the AWA World Championship title change, Jerry Lawler and Kurt Hennig from 1988. So that'll be great for sure. PJ said she loves the microphone, and I do. I appreciate Randy Dandy and Al Tuttle. Enjoyed the conversation and the Kerry Von Erich interview and everything that went with it, and it is all good, folks. And now I am trying to click around where I can get us out of here. All right. Hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. Remember to join us again on Monday. Until then, thanks to Rod Robinson, thanks to Shane Russell, and thanks to Brandon Baxter for that interview from June. This has been a lot of fun, and we need to check and see if I can find the comment again. Somebody new. Brooks Tullis said, "Good show tonight." As Al Tuttle says, Roman hadn't been on SmackDown yet. Are you going to watch it after you sign off, or do you want me to send it to you? No, I'll turn it on right now. I'm glad. Oh, I don't know if Fox Sports 1, you need to send it to me. I don't think I have that on YouTube TV. I really don't think I have that. Dang it. I would usually turn it on after this show goes off the air for sure. Dadgummit. Dadgummit. Been a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody. Randy Hales saying good night from the Randy Hales Show.